Imagine this for a second. You're hanging out with your friends or your family. There also happens to be a guitar sitting out in the room. Hey, you play guitar, don't you? Play us something. The next thing you know, your friend's grabbing the guitar and handing it to you. What do? If you're like most people, the situation is your personal nightmare, and you would run from it at all costs. But you don't have to. Today, I will show you 6 of the most beautiful and iconic fingerstyle guitar solos that are perfect for casual, fun gatherings with friends and family. They're short, they're sweet, and everyone recognizes them, so every guitarist should have these in their back pocket. I'll go through them in order of difficulty, starting with the easiest and ending with the hardest. So the inspiration for this video comes from years of me running into that exact scenario I described at the beginning of the video. In my experience, unless you're with very close friends, you probably only have about 30 seconds before people start getting bored and regretting asking you to play guitar. If you can sing and play, you get more time. But today, I want to help all those non-singers like me find a way to be able to play something cool, impress their friends, and then be able to get right back to the party without any awkwardness. Number 1, House of the Rising Sun. House of the Rising Sun is a great beginner choice. It's an easy chord progression, but because it's a long chord progression, it sounds interesting. If you're playing just instrumental guitar, you can't just play or strum a short chord progression because it's going to get boring after like 10 seconds. Here though, House of the Rising Sun has a 16-bar journey that keeps people interested. It's exactly enough time to entertain a short attention span, but it still leaves people feeling like you played something complete, not just a hodgepodge fragment of something. It starts with 4 classic chords: A minor, C, D, and F, and then it adds 4 more bars to finish the phrase. A minor, C, E, E. Now ending the phrase on that 5 chord feels unresolved, so it gets us ready for more. The next 4 bars repeat the A minor, C, D, F, which is familiar, continuing the journey, and then the final 4 bars take things back home where we started in A minor, with A minor, E, A minor, A minor. The version I played here has the melody in it as well. House of the Rising Sun is unique in that the melody often just follows the bass notes of the chords, so there's a really easy opportunity here to play something that's just a simple beginner pattern, but it includes the melody too. And that's rare for beginners who usually have to stick to playing music that's almost too basic to entertain anyone at a party. If you want tabs to this version, I put a link in the description to download for free, so check it out. Number 2, Malagueña. As someone who lives in Spain and plays traditional flamenco, I feel like it's my duty to tell you this isn't exactly real flamenco. It's not quite that close to a real Malagueña. A real Malagueña actually sounds vastly different from this and even involves a singer in addition to a guitarist. But outside of Spain, this particular melody has become synonymous with the Malagueña, largely due to a classical composer whose name is Ernesto Lecuona. He really leaned into this particular Malagueña melody as part of his Suite Andalucía from 1933. Since then, it's been popularized outside of Spain and repeated on the guitar in countless ways. For us, it serves as the perfect thing to play for beginners because it's easy to play, but it sounds hard. That's the dynamic duo for a beginner guitarist. Plus, it has an exotic sound that people you're playing for will love. This Malagueña uses just 2 chords, E and A minor. And to make it even easier, you can see they're the same shape. Beyond that, the fingerstyle section is very easy because it's just a thumb melody with the open string between every note. The speed of the notes is impressive, but it's really easy to remember and play. When you're learning this, I highly recommend you start by playing the thumb melody without the finger part on the high E string, like this. Then, when you know the melody well, add that E string in between. The other cool thing about this Malagueña is that by switching between the fingerstyle part and the strumming part, we get to give the impression that we're playing something full and complete with multiple sections, but in reality it's less than 30 seconds long, so it's perfect for the party attention span. Number 3, Dust in the Wind. Dust in the Wind is basically the quintessential Travis pick song. The Travis pick is a fingerstyle pattern that was popularized by country western songwriter guitarist Merle Travis. Today it remains one of the most widely used folk style patterns around, and there are infinite variations and different ways to play using Travis picking. The Travis pick pattern is perfect for playing at parties because it can make a regular chord sound more interesting. And as you play it, you start to hear a little melody appear on the top of the chord because of how the pattern's laid out. Dust in the Wind is very easy to play. It's just a C chord and an A minor chord with a little G over B to transition between the two. To learn this song, you'll also need to work on some modifications of each chord, like adding your pinky or removing your first finger. So it's a great way to start moving away from those classic chord shapes. If you've never done a Travis pick before, here's a quick breakdown. Take any chord and choose 4 strings to play. For Dust in the Wind, it's 4 consecutive strings starting from the bass note. So for the C chord, it would be this. Within those 4 consecutive strings, be ready to divide them into inside and outside strings. Next, you make finger assignments for each string. The lowest string is the thumb. The next one is also the thumb. Next one is the index. And the next one is the middle. So you're using 3 fingers in total. And lastly, the rhythm. There are 4 beats to cover, and each beat will have either 1 or 2 actions played by your hand. For Dust in the Wind, the breakdown is best described with words. So I'll use a 1-syllable word if you have to do one thing, and a 2-syllable word if you have to do 2 things. Just remember this: pinch, inside, outside, inside. For the pinch, you take your thumb and middle fingers and play the outer strings simultaneously. Important, don't immediately move on to the next step. Pause for another 8th note beat. Inside, this beat requires 2 actions, so it's a 2-syllable word. Inside translates to thumb, index on those inner 2 strings. Outside, do the same thing, but on the outer 2 strings with thumb and middle. And then finally, inside, you just repeat those same 2 inside strings on those same 2 fingers. That's it. It's simple, but it sounds complex. Now, I've seen many a guitarist fail at this because of the rhythm. It should be counted like this: 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Don't shortchange beat 1. Number 4, Spanish Romance. Spanish Romance is just too perfect. It's insanely easy for how full it sounds. There's a whole second half that's in E major that's a lot harder, but the first half is the perfect length to play a little something at a party and keep everyone's attention. This active triplet finger picking pattern fills a lot of space and it sounds great to the listener. And because it's in the key of E minor, it happens to align with these open strings. So you barely have to use your left hand at first. You just get to cruise along one open string. Now there are really only 2 major challenges that you got to watch out for when you're learning this one. First is a half bar. When the piece moves to A minor here, you're gonna have to use a half bar. Take your first finger and touch it to the crease of your thumb. That gives you a good bend right at that mid joint of the finger. Then push into the crease so that the tip joint collapses. This is the kind of leverage you want on your finger. Now translate that over to the guitar, push your finger down and make sure that your mid joint is pushing out. If it's flat, that probably means that your thumb is too high and you need to drop your thumb to give yourself some space. In the end, it should look like this. The second challenge is the B7 bar chord. This B7 bar chord at the 7th fret gives a lot of trouble. Bar chords are hard, and they're even harder when you have to stretch other fingers around to get melody notes like this. If you can't make that pinky stretch, here's an easier way to play the melody. Number 5, Blackbird. Blackbird. Everyone knows it, everyone likes it. And even though the guitar part is there to accompany a voice in the real song, you can play it alone and it sounds like a solo. Blackbird uses a variant of the Travis pick, and it uses these moving tenths as kind of the outer shells of chords that sound really nice when they're combined with this drone G in between. Now this one's more challenging for your left hand because you're moving all over the place, but it's a great way to get you moving around the neck and being comfortable outside of this first position that we often get into at first. You have to slide around, it's easy to get lost, and Blackbird helps you orient yourself well. Number 6, Here Comes the Sun. So this one comes last on my list as the hardest of all these options because it's not using a set, repeating right hand pattern. That can be really hard to manage if you're not used to it, and it's a sign that you're advancing if you can flow between different patterns to help you accentuate a particular melody. As you move past the beginner level, you'll be needing to do this more and more, as breaking away from patterns allows you to combine interesting melodies with a groove. In Here Comes the Sun, take a look at what happens with the chord and the melody, first in the D chord. If you break that down, it starts by playing the whole chord, then your fingers just play the melody, then you play the chord again, and then melody. Then the G chord uses a different right hand pattern. So as you can see there, the melody is just going back and forth between that and the bass note. Another fun element here is the pulse and the time shifting. There's the ending of the phrase, which moves into triplets for a minute. And there's a super interesting shift into 11/8 time for the bridge. I would suggest playing this by doing the intro and then one run through the chorus with the melody too, and then just ending it. If you learn the bridge, that's really cool to add at the end as well. Well, there you have it, folks. After years of trial and error playing things that are too complex, too unfamiliar, too long, or too somber for parties, you can learn from my failures and knock it out of the park next time you're at a get-together. Even if someone doesn't ask you to play, the best part about these particular songs is that they're awesome background music too. So just get out there, grab a guitar, and start playing at the next party whether people ask you to or not. Remember, I've got PDF downloads for you in the video description as well, so check those out. If you're practicing these songs and you want a little extra help, I would love you to check out Practice Pilot. It's a card game I created to help guitarists have highly effective practice sessions that are also really fun. I've been designing it for almost 2 years now, and I'm super excited because it's officially launching in April. It would help me out a ton if you head over to the link in the description to become part of the launch, and you can get your copy of the first edition there. And finally, let's talk in the comments. Have you ever been asked to play at a party? How did it go? Are there any other good songs you would suggest playing that went well? Thanks for watching, and happy practicing.